Hi, friends. Welcome to the next episode of Grounding Journey. If this is the first time you're finding us, I'm so excited to have you along with us. We have my guest, Poorvi, who is a practicing internal medicine physician in Atlanta. I met her because she has this amazing tea company, Herbs and Kettles. It's a single origin premium Indian tea company, and it is amazing. When I started learning about her teas, I was really impressed with their sourcing, their quality, their more than fair trade pay. And I was fascinated by the tea ingredients and how they could really help me as a female with my health and wellness. And being the founder of My Happy Life box, which we're pretty excited to say was 2024's best wellness box by A Year of Boxes. It's a perfect box to show yourself some self care. We help you through the gifts of sticking to your life goals, supporting a healthy lifestyle, and learning new techniques just to kind of make healthier living a bit easier. I've really found that giving yourself some self care is vital at midlife. It's our duty almost to show ourselves some love and some care. And we really love to bring that to you through the Grounding Journey podcast conversations and through the My Happy Life box and everything that we give you in it. So sit back and enjoy today's conversation with Poorvi, where we're going to talk about actual perimenopause. We're going to talk about some of the symptoms, some ways naturally and healthy to be proactive about perimenopause and what we're facing and what we're dealing with. Plus, we're going to talk about her teas and how they can really help you improve your quality of health and quality of life. I'm Chris Greer, host of the Grounding Journey podcast and creator of the My Happy Life monthly subscription box. As a 40-something mom, business owner, yoga lover, I was craving deeper conversations and connections, and I thought you might be too. So that's why I created the Grounding Journey podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Thank you so much for being here, Poorvi. I am so excited about the conversation. And so I've introduced you, I've introduced how we met and what we're going to talk about. But before we really dig into the meats, and we did have to hit record because we were already having too much of a conversation, but I would love for you to take a moment and introduce who you want your family, your friends, who you feel they actually know you as if you're sitting around the table.
Yeah, I think my family and friends will always say I'm a physician first. I love what I do. It's definitely the thing that excites me, teaching the new generation of medicine. So I have students and residents. I take care of, the underserved population at Grady Hospital. So my children will also say that, mom's a doctor, and if she has a sick patient, she's gonna forget everything to take care of that patient. But then I'm a mother. I have two young girls who are now 9 and 11. And so they're my joy, and three of us, do things together. So I would say a physician, mom, a wife for sure, and then a traveler. I love traveling. So our
Mhm.
entire family is into nature, hikes, wildlife. We love exploring parts of the world. So summer itself, we were in Alaska. Then I went to India on a sourcing trip and also to see my own mother. And after that, we were in South America for a week. So definitely, that's what I am, a physician, mom, wife, and traveler.
I love that. I am a self-proclaimed travel addict, and I am not seeking treatment for it. So I totally relate with you. And I've been to India. You mentioned India, and I've been to a couple places in South America. And there's so much that you learn as you travel, and especially when you travel to completely different cultures
Yes.
and see the different essences and the different experiences. It's really to me, it's such an enriching part of life. And I love that you take your children. Kevin is 23 and has had two at passports because that was something I always thought was so important with him was to travel
Uh-huh.
instead of have the name brand clothes or something.
I
And
agree.
it was a wonderful gift as a mom to be able to give to him. So I love that you take your kids traveling and stuff. That's another little part of the kindred soul for us together.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm excited to get into today's conversation. And as I mentioned, we had to stop talking and hit record because what we were already talking about was amazing conversation. So we're going to talk about perimenopause, the symptoms, and it'll be really fun to talk about it from the medical standpoint.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about the herbs and teas and ways to kind of manage the symptoms because as you and I were discussing, we both come from a very proactive
Yeah,
place
totally.
of being proactive versus being reactive. And so I'm excited to talk to you about this because in all the research that I've done for my own symptoms, I found this really neat statement. And let's talk about this, and this can be where we jump off at. That in the 1920s, the average life expectancy of a woman was 52, and the average age of menopause it was 47. I know it takes 10 years,
Hmm.
it's a wide range, but it was just an average statistic to read. So in the 1920s, women were living 5 years after menopause. So after the hormones, after everything had shifted, they were only living 5 years. In 2024, the average life expectancy of women is, I want to say it was 87, and now I'm going to forget, maybe it was 85. And then again, the average age of menopause was late 40s. So women are now living 30 to 40 years later
Hmm.
after going through menopause. And that's where we're seeing so many more health symptoms because of what happens to our bodies in menopause. And that's where I come from. It's so much better to be proactive, to build your health as you're going through perimenopause instead of reactive in your 60s where you have
Yeah,
to fix everything.
I agree. We spend about half our lives in menopause. Um,
Hmm.
and I think we take so much care of ourselves and our children, especially when we are younger, like, when we are, we have mothers who take care of us when we are children, and then we are in that stage of, uh, education, college, getting a degree, sometimes marriage. And then when we hit about, I would say sometime between 40 and 50, we're like, yeah, we've achieved what we wanted to. And then we forget that we have another 40 years to live. And that we have to uh, kind of, empower ourselves to be our healthiest possible.
Yeah.
And so I agree with you, being proactive, educating ourselves is so much better than being reactive. And, I'm in my early 40s, and uh, it's interesting because a lot of my education towards perimenopause and menopause started last year when I was looking to how could I integrate my medical knowledge with the tea business. And that's when I
Hmm.
met some really amazing women in health, physicians, nutritionists who started my journey. And also, like, I was like, wow, there's so much conversation that needs to reach the layperson in a way that it's, approachable. Not
Yeah.
everything is about, say, medications. It has to be about health, wellness, nutrition, sometimes even like physical therapy, right? So you're talking of heavy weight lifting, pelvic floor therapy. So that's, when I got into my journey about perimenopause and menopause, and I was like, I am going to be proactive. So what I started doing was going to the gym twice a week. I found a gym
Hmm.
that specializes in my age or older women so that they would
Cool.
know that what I was looking for was heavy weightlifting so that I could
Hmm.
strengthen my bones and muscles so that because I did not want to have osteoporosis as I got older.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that could lead to fractures. And, so that's what, again, bone mass is very important. So going out in the sun, ensuring that you are supplementing with calcium and vitamin D, and definitely doing that heavy weight lifting. So a lot of women focus on cardio to lose weight, for heart health, but they forget to add weights. And so I would definitely recommend that to women who are listening.
Hmm. Well,
And
and I
then
think
also,
that's,
yeah. Go ahead.
I think to touch for a moment, it's interesting. Just the things that I've read is that the number one killer in women is heart problems. So we do focus on the cardio and heart health and
Hmm.
forget about all the other stuff that happens as our hormones shift, as our estrogen lowers. So let's talk for a second about what's happening. We're talking about symptoms, and everybody knows hot flashes. That's our
Yeah.
key to hot flashes. But let's talk a little bit more about some of the symptoms or what's happening to our bodies, where you mentioned osteoporosis and
Yeah.
making sure we're
So
lifting weights.
yeah, there's definitely a loss of bone mass, and you want to catch it early. In fact, you don't want to go through it. So I would say in your 40s, 50s is when you start losing that bone mass.
Hmm.
And so that's, more of what happens to your body, correct? But there's a lot of things that can also happen to your mind is increased anxiety.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, and that's a big one. And people like, I wasn't anxious about this, and suddenly everything is, throwing me off. And the other big one is sleep disturbances, either
Hmm.
having difficulty going to sleep or staying asleep. And so I think those are just two big ones, and they kind of feed off each other. So if you don't sleep well enough, you're obviously going to be anxious.
Yes.
And and then you're gonna be tired. You're gonna have, and so it's just about your whole day is a blur. So I would
Mhm.
say focusing on sleep and, being grounded. I myself wasn't into a lot of these, a lot of about being, about meditation, about just feeling that, taking time to myself.
Mhm.
Considering I'm a physician, mom, entrepreneur, I never took time for myself. But now I'm like, I am going to block off 2 hours just to relax. Right. So
Mhm.
that could be go for a walk, or it could be sometimes even like laying on the couch and reading a book. So, but
Yeah.
I will block off periods, especially on my weeks off, so that I can have time to myself.
Mhm.
And that's helped with feeling less tired, having more energy to do what what I want to do, and I'm trying to like block off the noise, so I focus on work that needs to be done. So it's again priority, right? Work, kids, taking care of the house, and everything else I will make time for when I want to. But yes, I think fatigue, mood swings, sleep disturbances are big ones that I would ask people to look out for. And so, you might not have hot flashes. If your mom never had hot flashes, again, a lot of it is genetic. One might not feel them, but they would be, perimenopause, menopause symptoms can come in different ways. The other thing I'd like to, point out is you don't have to be 50 to start having these symptoms.
Right.
People can have earlier symptoms, and a lot of people can have symptoms when they are in their early 40s, mid 50s. So definitely, look out. And the last one is brain fog. It's definitely real,
Yes.
you
Well,
know.
and I think, you know, so what I've read, and again, I'm
Yes.
just reading from lots of different sources, is that perimenopause can last 10 years before you're actually
Hmm.
in menopause. And I'm 48, so I'm a little bit older than you. And I was about 40, 41 on my yearly exam when the doctor said, "Oh, your cells are showing perimenopause." And of course, I was like, "What? I'm 40. What do you mean?" And she explained to me that no, it can take 10 years. So
Yeah.
over the last 8 years, I would say now, I've definitely noticed kind of the ramping up of those symptoms, the hot flashes. I laugh about the sleep because I haven't slept in 20 years, So the fact that I'm in perimenopause and not sleeping, I'm like, I think I had insomnia as a teenager. But definitely there is that connection of poor sleep, emotional brain fog, and it's just a circle that goes around and around. And I definitely have become more conscious about my sleep hygiene, so my sleep practices,
Hmm.
to create a better sleep routine. And I started using progesterone cream, and that's been,
Ah,
my saving grace. I think that, like, I'm going to tell you that it's all about your sleep practices, and then I'm going to tell you that my new best friend is progesterone cream. So I think that probably really helped a lot. And you mentioned taking time for yourself, but let's talk a little bit about sleep hygiene, sleep practices, because that is taking time for yourself, and that is completely setting you
yeah.
up for a better next day. And when we prepare to go to bed and we do the things that we know are going to cause stressors in the morning, then it sets us up for a better day the next day, which kind of breaks that circle of the the sleep, the brain fog, the emotions, I think.
Yeah, totally. So a few things that I've started to do is one, I will decrease my screen time
Mhm.
drastically in the evening and cut it off around 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
And I know it's sometimes very hard to do, but I have
Yeah.
noticed that if I am on my screen until I go to sleep, I don't sleep very well.
Mhm.
I may, fall asleep easy. A lot of people actually have trouble falling asleep. And for me, that's not the case, but I will get up multiple times a night. And
Mhm.
so I have had to start limiting my screen time. I do put an alarm because I feel like to get up, because otherwise, if I don't have an alarm on, there's that anxiety part of me, which is like, oh, what if I don't
Mhm.
wake up? So I will ensure that, my phone's on silent, or the volume's turned down, and I will put an alarm. So those are like little basic things that I will do. Um, I only use the bed to sleep.
Yes.
Um, so that's a big one. And that's what that's something I learned in med school and in residency. I've been telling my patients to do that. I don't generally go into my bedroom unless it's to sleep. And so my brain does associate my bedroom with sleep. And that's about it.
Mhm.
And that's great because then I can fall asleep within seconds. I do not have a problem with that at
Yeah.
all. And it's about also for me, it's been about creating a ritual. So sometimes it's
Mhm.
about having a bath. I mean, usually because I work during the day and I have my baths in the evening or, a
Mhm.
shower. Sometimes I use Epsom salt. Sometimes I'll just use a magnesium supplement. So that's very helpful. And then, my girls and I have started a little ritual where we will drink tea about half an hour to 45 minutes before bedtime.
Mm.
So we'll steep our tea. We'll all just get our cups together. My younger one's really gotten into it, so she loves this, time because it's about us connecting, right?
Yeah.
We'll drink, and then I have, two teas that I love. I really enjoy. One's the chamomile because it helps me stay asleep for longer, and
Mhm.
I really enjoy that. And then the calming golden latte. So, it has ashwagandha, which has, helped me with sleep, anxiety, hot flashes. So I'll use both of them as part of my sleep ritual. It's not only the fact that the tea has medicinal herbs, but also just the act of steeping tea, right? So you're taking time that helps kind of relax, ground yourself.
Mhm.
I'm building that time with my children, so that's like our time together, and it helps calm them down too, because then their bodies and minds know that they need to go to sleep. So yes, that's the rituals that we've created in our homes to help us with sleep.
Well, I think it's important to have those, as you said, going to your bedroom, your body knows it's time to sleep. So having whatever your practice is,
Hmm.
whether it's making lunches and setting the coffee maker, but having that as your lead into bedtime allows your body and your brain to know, okay, this is where we're going with it instead of being all over the place. Now, I love not having a TV in my bedroom. That is something I have always, Kevin has not had a TV
Hmm.
in his bedroom growing up. That's a big thing to me. I do love to read. I love to read in bed, and that's my tea time as you have, because that's what my body says. Okay, we're reading, that means it's time to go to sleep.
Hmm.
And I woke up the other day and nobody was home. I had the house to myself. So I decided to read for a little bit. And of course, I went right to sleep because my body's like, but reading is bedtime. So I
Yeah.
know it's noon, but it's time to take a nap. So it is important to build those, whatever your hygiene, your practices are, is finding what creates less stress for you and lets
Hmm.
your body really know, okay, this is the practice, this is where we're going with it. So
Yeah.
it can
It's a
all look a little
conditioned
different.
reflex response. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That was the good terminology for it. And so we've got this better bedtime practice. Now we've talked about there's symptoms. There's brain fog, which is a real thing. There's emotions because our hormones, it's like adolescence, our hormones are all over the place again. We're tired, we have brain fog. They all tie back into each other. So we've talked a little bit about the symptoms. We've touched on some ways to handle it, like having a good sleep practice, taking time for yourself. Let's talk a little bit more, bringing your actual knowledge and experience into other ways and things that are important to support you as you move through perimenopause?
Definitely. I think one big thing is nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
It should not, again, it should not be about, yes, I think weight loss is important, because obviously if you are overweight or obese, you are at risk of a lot of health problems, correct?
Yeah.
Including sleep apnea, which is a big one, heart health, which is another one. But again, the big thing should not be about depriving yourself of food or calories. It should be about eating what is healthy for you. So that's,
Mm-hmm.
I think, protein. A lot of women don't get enough protein. So that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy fats. My girls love avocados. I do too. And that's our go to. We are vegetarian. So we'll definitely have lots of beans, tofu, avocado, and then, limiting our carbs to healthier carbs. So I would say, I don't eat a lot of processed food. So my girls also, interestingly, just because they aren't given a choice in a lot of ways, because that's how, we uh, wanted our house to be run. So yeah, we eat a lot of healthier carbs. So that could be a sweet potato, sometimes even a regular potato, lots of salad, vegetables, carrots, So I think, but increasing your protein intake is very, very important. So
Mm-hmm.
I would focus on that. And what a lot of people should do is, if they're having trouble, is work with a nutritionist.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe sometimes it's a prebiotic, sometimes also it's about supplements. We lose a lot of supplements, especially
Mm-hmm.
as we are more anxious. I would say magnesium, potassium are very important, and they also help with sleep. So,
Mm-hmm.
ensuring that you have a balanced diet, still rich in protein, healthy fats, you have your fiber, is very, very important. So, I would say exercise, nutrition, sometimes, seeking help when you need to. So if you have worsening anxiety, sleep disturbances, a lot of women at this time also start having urinary incontinence, especially the ones that have had vaginal birthing. So seeing a pelvic floor therapist, again, would be very beneficial.
One of the things that you've mentioned a couple of times today, forgot to bring us back to, was anxiety. Now, I
Hmm.
had anxiety in my 20s. It's very genetic in my family. My 30s and my 40s, early 40s, it had settled down, but it has definitely in the last 2 years really heightened again for me. And I'm not particularly anxious about anything. I just feel myself with more anxiety. And so I wanted just to touch on that because I think we forget to talk about that as a symptom
Hmm.
with perimenopause. And I know in talking with another friend who is a little bit farther through the journey than me, she said anxiety was really high for her too, and it was unusual. So I think that's one we forget to talk about because we talk about sleep and brain fog and emotions.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that part into the conversation for a minute.
Yeah, I think also it's a lot of us don't talk about our feelings, right? Everything's
Hmm.
fine, we're doing great. And so we're not building the community that talks about depression, anxiety. I think that's very important. So what you're doing in this podcast is so great because you are bringing up things that are important. But yeah, anxiety is a big part of that whole, syndrome of perimenopause and menopause. And think of it, why would someone not feel it? Like a lot of us women, have children, we have jobs, we're trying to also meet the needs of our household. We're doing so much. We don't have time to ourselves. And we are feeling that pressure. There's always been a pressure to excel, right? We've come from
Hmm.
being suppressed to finally having jobs, now have to meet such big demands and some goals that we set up for ourselves too. So that is going to create anxiety. It's going to create feelings of insecurity, especially and then our health's not keeping up to all these goals that we had. So it's also about re-looking at our lives, seeing what is
Yeah.
really important. And also me, I've started seeing a therapist, and that's really helped me. My goal in life now is like, hey, do I need all this? Can I just be happy? So I think happiness
Hmm.
has become like my commodity that I want to, and so and I've started valuing things about how much joy is this giving me? So,
Yes.
where am I with what's making me happy? So yeah, and that's what I've started looking at life, and even like a little like initially even for my goals, a lot of it was like, oh, you need to do this. I'm like, well, you know what? I'd rather you guys just be happy, adjusted, people, and then, go through what I have, which is, yes, I've achieved whatever I wanted in life. But at 40, I'm like, well, was this the right way to go about things? And, now I've started measuring things with happiness and joy. And I wish I started doing that a lot earlier. Maybe my anxiety would have
Mm.
been less, but I definitely still think that anxiety is a big part of what we women in our 40s and 50s have, and we should talk about it. We should maybe, if you need medications, yes, medications are a good tool. I definitely think nutrition, tea, again, is a great way of decreasing anxiety, and seeing a therapist if you have to. So yeah.
When I think 2 points. So you're in at the early part of perimenopause, and I'm at
Mm-hmm.
the other end. So I'm empty nest. I
Yeah.
am like, okay, cool. I raised a really great human. Now what's next?
Yeah.
So there's that other, as you said, in your early 40s, it's the I'm reaching all my goals. I've still got 40 more years to live. Where I'm at the, okay, what am I going to do with those next 40 years? Like, holy crud. And I think that that's a space that creates a lot of anxiety for people,
Got it.
for women also. So, as you mentioned, T, for me, realizing when I feel anxiety instead of pushing through it and
Mm-hmm.
just being reactive to it, noticing, oh, I'm feeling anxiety right now, and pausing for a
Yeah.
moment. Is this real anxiety? Is there something that I need to address or do differently? Or is it just my nervous system calling out for me to pause for a minute and have a cup
Mm-hmm.
of tea or go play with the dogs for a few moments to release that excess energy? So I think that anxiety changes through the experience and becoming really aware of it. Now you're a doctor, so you're talking to people all day long, so you are a little more aware of it. And I think it's a neat journey to become aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a doctor, but again, we don't get all the tools. A lot of it is, uh, how do we cure folks? It's not about how we prevent
Hmm.
disease, right? So even
Mm.
in
Yes.
me, I had to work with my therapist to get cues from my body because I'm not so
Mhm.
attuned, right? Yes, my mind's always working, and my body was almost like was just something that was being dragged along, correct? So
Yeah.
I had to change that to like, fine, as you said, cues from your body about, okay, I'm having anxiety. So what you said was so important. I just want to you know bring that up, that when you're feeling anxious, where does that live in your body? And then realizing, okay, I'm feeling anxious, let me slow down. I think that's very, very important.
I'm writing down what you just said because it sounded so amazing. Um, Cues from your body, your mind was working and your body was getting dragged along. Like,
Yeah.
hello, that's our 20s, 30s. And I think the conversation has really changed because our mom's generation wasn't empowered with this conversation. My mom's generation dreaded hot flashes. They were going to get divorced. There were all these things. So that change of life, the empty nest, was a time to dread. I mean, I was so in that place 2 years ago of dreading Kevin moving out and worked with my coach. We did a lot of NLP, um, to see where I had built that thought and how to reprogram it, and to really realize that this next 40 years is where we get to be vibrant and empowered. And we have all that knowledge. We always
Hmm.
say, I would love to live my 20s again if I had my knowledge of my 40s, but I would never go back and do my 20s again. So we get this beautiful time now to be um, this vibrant self if we're proactive and aware of it. And that's what's really beautiful about the journey is we forget because the conversation is always hot flashes, brain fog instead of empowerment and the opportunity to choose.
Yeah. And also, like, I feel like, why not lean towards our own communities?
Hmm.
Our friends, our neighbors, our family, and build relationships with them. Because I feel that's the one thing I've started leaning towards is like, asking my friends, hey, do you guys just want to catch up? Let's do something.
Yeah.
And that's helpful, like having conversations, because I feel every like, when we have conversations with our friends and family, we learn so much about them, about
Hmm.
us, about life. And, I think it's great. I think people need to build communities. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah. Well, and that comes back to also not feeling alone. Me saying that I had so much anxiety and talking to a friend a little farther in the journey who said, "Oh yeah,
Hmm.
that was a real deal for me." So
Oh,
it
okay.
it helped me connect to, okay, it's not my poor mental health. It's part of the
Yeah,
experience. It's part of the journey. It's not the best part of the journey, but it's definitely part of the experience that we go through.
true.
So we've hinted a little bit about your teas, and that's how we met, as I mentioned in the intro. And I personally love your teas, and they'll be in one of the upcoming My Happy Life boxes. I don't know when this episode's going to air versus when that box is going to be, so we'll just say they're going to be in one of our boxes. But I also was reading about your promise and what you do with the business, and
Uh-huh.
I thought that was really fascinating. So let's talk for a second. We'll talk about your business, and then we'll talk about how you use teas to support you through menopause, because that's where we're bringing some of the teas into the box, is
Yeah,
really for that support. So,
yeah.
herbs and kettles, amazing, amazing teas. I love the golden latte and then your blue tea. Those are my two favorites.
Got it. Yeah, people have their favorites. But yeah, my journey, towards herbs and kettles actually started in 2020. I'm a frontline physician, and where I worked, we hardly had any N95 masks, and I used to get one new mask a month. So
Oh wow.
obviously, I had such severe anxiety, like panic attacks. And my kids were home, right? Because there was no school. And I had to go to work and I had to find a babysitter because
Hmm.
I did not have a babysitter. And then I had to trust the babysitter to have the right precautions to be able to work at home and keep my kids and me safe, right? But what grounded me was tea. So
Hmm.
I took to tea, and I have an urban garden. So we used to took to tea and gardening. So we used to, enjoy tea in our garden.
Yeah.
And that became a big part of our lives. And, with my journey and to India, and, I still have family there. My mother's in Mumbai. I would go to India multiple times. So when we, and all these tea growing regions are in remote parts of India, and that's where the wildlife is. Correct.
Hmm.
So we would go on these safaris, and then we used to go to tea gardens. So I've always grown up drinking very high quality tea.
Hmm.
And the peace that tea gave me in 2020, I was like, wow, this has helped so much. And
Hmm.
I had definitely have the scientific knowledge. I definitely had good tea, but I love to now bring that to Atlanta and beyond,
Hmm.
and also then build community, because we were still isolating in early 2021, where we didn't necessarily feel very safe going to indoor events. So we started herbs and kettles at a farmer's market. So it was outdoors. Our girls got to socialize, we got to socialize. And it was a great way of, again, building community, sharing our love for high quality tea. So yeah, herbs and kettles actually started as a way for me to find peace. It has evoked my inner creativity. I love doing what I do. Um, and yeah, and so that's the tea journey. I drink caffeinated teas usually during the day, morning, and I stop around 1 or 2. because tea is different than coffee, but the coffee gives these big spikes,
Hmm.
and of big spikes of energy, of caffeine, and then you have crashes. Tea is more sustained, so you will feel focused for about 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
And but again, the caffeine lingers on for that long. So I will
Hmm.
probably usually start drinking a caffeinated tea around 1 or 2. If I think, if I sleep around 9 or 10, 2 is probably a hard stop for me. Yeah, because
Hmm.
otherwise I've noticed I won't sleep very well. And then I'll move to some of my herbal teas. And in my repertoire also I have the golden latte, because I think that really helps. The calming golden latte is great for perimenopause and menopause. It's got a high quality turmeric, which is rich in curcumin, so excellent for
Hmm.
inflammation. Ashwagandha, which actually studies have shown that it's not only good for adrenal balance, so for the anxiety, but it also helps with perimenopause and menopause symptoms like hot flashes, and so great for anxiety, and very, very good for hot flashes. And then it's got wild cinnamon, which helps with like blood glucose control. Again, something, a lot of women in their 40s have diabetes. Some of it is from stress, some of it is just from metabolic changes, and it has black pepper. So that's like one of my favorite good herbal teas after 2 o'clock. And I'll have it, sometimes a lot of my customers will have it with oat milk and honey. I'll have it sometimes, with just hot water. Kind of just depends on what I'm in the mood for. And then, yes, the blue chai is definitely another favorite. It's got, again, this whole decaf teas, I would ask people to be a little apprehensive of what that means, because decaf tea it uses a solvent to dissolve the caffeine, but not all of it goes away. But it also strips away the polyphenols. So the blue chai is our spin on a caffeine-free chai, because it's got butterfly blue pea flower, which is very rich in antioxidants, and then it's got chai spices. So that's my other go-to favorite, and then definitely the chamomile, because that has definitely shown to help me sleep. I didn't like chamomile until I had mine. So because it's like a nice sweet and savory. Like most of the chamomiles that I've had, especially in grocery stores, are more bitter. So, but our
Hmm.
chamomile is really nice, sweet and savory. So that's mostly my evening and night ritual. I'll do like a combination of these teas as my go-to.
So I like that you mentioned something about decaf tea, and let's talk about that for another moment because I'm
Yeah.
allergic to caffeine. I haven't had
Uh-huh.
caffeine since I was 17, 18, because of the physical response to it. I actually will, like, my vision gets blurry or completely
Oh
blacks out of
gosh.
one
Okay.
eye. So I only do herbal teas like peppermint tea, chamomile tea. I have
Hmm.
a lavender tea that I've recently, and it's just peppermint leaves or lavender leaves. So tell me, when you say that about decaf tea, is it decaf tea or herbal tea? Like, elaborate a little bit more on that for
Yeah,
education.
so when most places decaf tea means it's tea which has the salt, they've used a solvent to remove the caffeine,
Hmm.
correct? But this caffeine, the solvent that's used not only gets rid of the caffeine, but it also gets rid of the polyphenol, so the antioxidants of tea, correct? So
Okay.
it's really not healthy. And it doesn't get rid of all the caffeine, there's still a little bit left. So if you're extremely sensitive to caffeine, I would not recommend a decaf tea at night for sure.
Hmm.
So that's why the right terminology for an herbal tea that's without, the Camellia sinensis tea plant is a tisane. So that's usually herbs and spices
Okay.
without caffeine. And so, yeah, just a little bit of a nuance and difference. But most caffeine-free teas or tisanes are caffeine, are caffeine-free, except like sometimes indigenous tribes have yerba mate, which is obviously has a lot of caffeine. Yeah,
Okay. So that's a cue to look for, is like caffeine free versus decaf. Is
decaf.
that what I'm
Yes,
understanding? Okay. Because
yes,
I always
yeah,
buy caffeine free herbal tea, but I kind of
great.
panicked for a minute that maybe the tea I was drinking wasn't
Yeah.
actually good.
And look at your ingredients, right? See, again, sourcing is very important. So we directly source all our ingredients from small farms. We know exactly where the best herbs, spices, and teas are, and so
Mhm.
are grown. And so we'll source, I would say like some of our blends, like say the vanilla lavender chai has ingredients from literally all over India. Like it's got
Mhm.
lavender from Kashmir, which is in North India, vanilla from South India, and then an Assam black tea, which is East India. So, yeah, sourcing is very important. How fresh are your herbs and spices,
Yeah.
not only for tea, but also for cooking? So you want to, a lot of grocery store teas are taste bad, I would say,
Yes.
because they are they are years old. You're not talking about months old.
Mhm.
You're talking like literally 3 to 4, just maybe 7 years old, which is not very healthy or good. Correct.
Yeah.
So getting teas and herbs, spices from trusted sources, which are transparent, is very important.
That's been one of my favorite parts about the journey with our subscription box because I love teas because I don't drink caffeine. And
Hmm.
when I lived in Sweden um, in my teens, they have fika, which is tea time every afternoon. So it was just part of the day was we would sit down with a cup of tea and honey so to me it's always been kind of a special time. So I've always
Hmm.
been a fan of tea. Like I have a tea cabinet and so what's been fun for me with the subscription box is getting to find all these small sourced teas like yours, like some other ones that we've done.
Uh-huh.
Because it is, I had no idea that grocery store tea was that old. So you're really educating us on that information and empowering me to keep finding all these great local teas or small family
Yeah.
teas because it's so yummy. There is such a difference.
Yeah. I didn't carry my tea one time and I was traveling back from Paris to Atlanta. And I was looked at a green tea, it was in a tea bag. And I was like, okay, and it tasted so bad. And then I
Yeah.
opened it, and the green tea was in granules. Okay, so it
Ugh,
wasn't even like leaves. It was granules. And I'm like, this is not, the tea is so processed and so broken up that it's
yeah.
not going to taste the way it's supposed to. Correct. And so immediately I couldn't have that tea. I was just like, forget it. I'm not going to drink anything. But that's why I think sourcing high quality teas, yes, there is a cost difference, but
Hmm.
it's our body, correct? I mean,
Yeah.
what we put in our body, if you're drinking organic, if you're eating organic, I mean, one is already about quality, then that should also then go to the rest of your life, which includes tea and the other things that you do, correct? So,
Yeah.
I would say like seeing the night right nutritionist and also getting the best exercise, so joining a gym maybe. So I think, we often forget that this is our body and we should take good care of
Yes, we should not drag it along with us anymore because we've got it for this whole life. I mean, like that was powerful. That is going to go on my bulletin board of stop dragging your body along. And since I've really been digging into perimenopause and the symptoms and reading more and learning more, I've gotten much more proactive and it feels really good. Like it just feels empowering. I I love that you said something about ashwagandha because I knew it was something to relax, and I've started taking a magnesium supplement that has that in it. And when you said it has adrenal health, I'm like, that's what's helping me too. So we have all these little elements that help us that make the puzzle up. And so, really listening to our bodies, the cues, and if you don't know how to listen to your body, starting to pay more attention to it, because our body speaks really loud and really powerful. If the more we listen, the less loud it speaks, I think. But our bodies definitely will tell us what we need and what they need for us.
Yeah, and I guess as you say, we just have to listen to it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Porvi, this has been such a fun conversation, and it has totally gotten me to be like, oh, I need to order the turmeric tea because you talking about that one, I know that I've drank the couple samples I have of it from you. But I know that we're going to have your teas in the box. But I want people to be able to find you. So it is herbsandkettles.com, and you're on
Yes.
Instagram and Facebook that way too, aren't you?
Yes, that's correct. And we are mainly online and at some small boutique stores around.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was so wonderful to see you again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was lovely seeing you again. Take care. Have a great week.
Thanks so much for the conversation today. I hope that you really had those moments of aha where you connected with, I'm already doing something right, and oh, there's something new I need to learn. I remember when I was in my 20s and my company sent me to my first business class, my dad asking how I did. Now, my dad was a VP of a very large company. And so he asked me what I thought of it. And I'm like, oh, I learned all this really cool stuff. And he was so excited for me. And they sent me to my second seminar, and it was all stuff I already knew. And I felt deflated, like I'd lost a day. And when I was talking to my dad about it, he said, that's great. It's fantastic. You went to a seminar that you already knew everything. And I remember looking at him puzzled and saying, but dad, it was a waste of a day. And he said, no, wasn't it actually amazing confirmation that you're doing something right? So I hope you had those moments of doing something right today and those moments of there's something new I learned. Thank you again for being a part of today's podcast. I'm grateful to have you as part of my journey and would be honored to be a part of yours. Please, please, please hit the like, hit the follow button wherever you are. And if you're on an app that allows you to leave a review, it would be even better to give us feedback and let us know how we're helping you and what you'd love to hear more of. Thank you so much for being here.